Finally, bro. Finally. How you been? How's your weekend? How's your week been so far?
It's been a complete nightmare. There's a lot of meetings happening and a lot of projects that I will have to handle during the weekend. So it's going to be a busy weekend for sure.
Shit, man. Well, I hope it gets better for you, man. I hope it gets easier, and I hope you can take a vacation soon.
Vacations.
I know vacations, right? I didn't know they
What
still
is
existed.
this? You have those?
I wish. I hope. I wish so. I could use I could use one.
Oh, man.
But it is what it is. You push through, right?
Yes. For me, it's not a big deal. But when you start working on a project and then you have to start on the second one and then you have the third one, you still have the first one to finish, and
Yeah.
then you realize, okay, I don't have enough time to manage all these projects, and it's just being a mess. But I'll take the weekend just to do my best to deliver those at least before Monday. Otherwise, I'll
I
have a
feel
big
you.
problem. Yeah,
I know exactly what you
yeah.
mean.
So what about your week?
A lot of work, man. A lot of work. I'm just
Out of
I'm
work.
I'm glad that it's almost over, you know?
Yes, yes. So you don't work normally at the weekend?
I work Saturdays, so like that's why I said almost over.
Almost. Okay, okay. Okay, so man, let's jump right into it because you still have some things to do during the weekend. So I also have a lot of things to do. And I kind of just prepared some few questions, but the most important is I want to extract from you those key secrets from tech recruiters. What do you guys see? What you're looking for? And hopefully be able to help my community, the YouTube community, the fam also on LinkedIn, those who follow me. And so kind of use me to deliver your message, your mission. We're going to talk just in a minute. So I want to know something. As a kid, did you dream to be a tech recruiter?
No, my dream was to be in the NBA.
How come?
Why are you laughing?
I don't know. I don't know your height.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
I don't know your height, but
I'm 5'9".
IT, like NBA, it's way too long.
Yeah. You know
What
what it
happened?
is? It was so just growing up, right? I just never I always thought that like the thing that I'd be good at, or a thing that I would like really love would
Yeah.
be like what my career should be. And I really loved basketball, despite the fact that all evidence pointed that I wasn't very good at it. But like I was captivated by the NBA. My dad brought me to basketball games when I was a kid, and like it was like the one sport that I was not only able to follow in terms of understanding the rules and how to play it, and like understanding the strategy, but like the storylines of what goes on in the NBA completely captivated me. And looking back, I realized that it was a love for storytelling and narratives that I
Okay.
fell in love with, and not so much the NBA in itself. Even though I'm still a hardcore basketball fan, I love basketball. I watch the NBA. Even over here in Spain, I keep track of FIBA. I watch. Sometimes I stay up till like 4 a.m. watching Raptors games. So like it's still a very big part of my life. But storytelling has always been something that I've been obsessed with. But at the time, I didn't know the right vehicle to like kind of move that in. So just growing up as a kid in Toronto, especially during the
Uh,
Vince Carter era, basketball was what like drew me in, and that was like my first dream career, being an NBA player.
NBA.
Because
So
I used to see like the way that Jermaine Murray sounds from like speakers, it has a ring to it. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
that's where I was
Uh,
going with that.
oh man, you should have kept to develop the Mamba mentality.
Well, like I said, I'm 5'9", right?
Okay.
So my basketball dreams kind of died, right? In grade 10, grade 11, when I wasn't growing, like my mom was joking because I was putting on weight, and she was like, "You're growing this way, but you need to be growing this way."
Yeah, you
And
got it
you know,
wrong.
yeah, and then I pivoted to acting. Acting was my next dream. You know, I was actually, you know, I was really quote unquote, I was one of those drama kids, and
Yeah.
I was a pretty decent actor at the time. And
Denzel
I had a
kind.
drama teacher. I had a drama teacher tell me, "Yo, if you keep this up, you're gonna be the fat Denzel." And I was like,
How cute.
I was like, I'm like, yo, I don't even know how to take that.
Yes. Was it a
I,
compliment
it was a
or
compliment because I was a big guy, right? So like,
okay.
it was a compliment, but I was like, I don't know if I want to be known as the fat Denzel. Like
Yes.
that's just a backhanded way of like
Yeah.
complimenting me. So like, you know, I decided I wanted to pursue acting, and I remember when I time for me to choose my university course, and I told my mom I wanted to be an actor, and I told my dad, they were like, "Yo, listen, they're both immigrants, they're Jamaican immigrants, and like
Yeah.
they never went to post-secondary school, right? My dad stopped going to school at a very young age to like support and work for the family. You know
Hmm.
how it goes back in the old country. And
Yeah.
my dad's like, I don't know anything about school, but I know one thing: I'm not paying for someone to go to university for acting. Like, if you're gonna go to school, go for something else that's not acting, right? Because you can
Yes.
just go down to Second City in Toronto, or one of the acting clubs, and just
Yeah.
join there and just like, you know, hone your craft there without pouring in thousands of dollars. So that's when I, like, you know, I did another pivot, and my next dream after that was to be a radio broadcaster, right? Like Larry King or like Mark and Jem in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I went to school for broadcasting, which my parents were a bit more happy to like pay
It looks
for
like a
university
job.
wise. It looks like a job, right? Right. It looks
Yeah.
like a job. It looks like a job. And
Yeah.
I used to do the announcements at school, and like my parents sometimes when they would drop me off, my parents would like wait to hear me
Mm.
on the announcements, and they'd be like, that boy got a good voice. So like
Okay.
it kind of made a little bit of sense. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where my university careers kind of started out. Radio was like
On
the
the radio.
last, yeah, that was like the last thing I had before I made the jump into tech.
Okay. So it looks like you were looking for something, but
Yeah.
you didn't know at that time what that thing was. You were just trying new things.
Yeah. I was just, like I said, I had interests. I just didn't know how my interests could translate into like an
Hmm.
actual career. And being the son of first generation, like as like from immigrants, being the first generation
Yeah.
in Canada, you know, and like to like put things into some bigger perspective, I was the first person in my family to go to university, right? So
Okay.
I had like no one to ask about careers or anything like
Hmm.
that. Like everyone was from the school of thought, like if you get a job, you hold the job, and like it's just good that you have a job. You know, there were like
Okay.
this whole aspect of like careers being something that you do for passion or for choice, like was something that seemed like a little far-fetched to a lot of people in my family,
Okay.
just because we didn't have anybody that kind of established that kind of pattern before. So
Hmm.
yeah, I was searching and I was looking, and I didn't really find many things. So like um I just kind of went with like what the flow of things were going towards me. I wasn't even the one that decided to go into like radio. It was my mom that like pitched it to me because she used to drive me to school. We used to listen to the radio, and she's
Yeah.
like, I can easily see you doing something like that because you do the announcements, you know, check it out. And I was like, sure, why not? And I applied to schools for the radio programs, and I got in, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
Okay. So until the university, give me your around your age at that time. So
I went to university when I was 17, so I had to make the decision on
17.
my program when I was like 16.
Okay. The reason why I asked this is I talk to a lot of young kids I'm not that old, but they are at this age from 12 to 16 where they don't know what to do. They don't think. And I want to understand if this was something that you thought during that time, and if it is something that people should be thinking during that early age, what to work on.
Yes and no. Like I think it's wild that we ask 12 to like 16-year-olds to make decisions that are going to affect the rest of their lives at that age when they're just finding themselves. But I think the advice I would give myself back then would be to like kind of sit down and without having to worry about the judgment of and this is actually what I did when I decided to like go into tech, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know I was actually going into tech when I chose to go into tech. I sat down and I asked myself like, yo, Jermaine, if you could do any job in the world, work in any field, and it like what would it be? And like no judgment, like, you know, what would it be? And I came up with I would love to get paid to play video games was what I came up with.
Yes. We're going to talk a lot about that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I had a friend named Houston who was like on the borderline of being like a pro gamer because he was just really, really good at Call of Duty. And I remember asking myself, and at this age, I was 26 at the time. So it was like 10 years after the university programs were thrown at me. And like, this is like 3 or 4 years after I completed university. And I was working in a job that I did not like. And I asked myself what it would be. And I said, I would like to get paid to play video games. And the second question I asked myself was, I see how much work Houston's putting in to be a pro gamer. Can I put that much work in to be as good as him at games? And I said, hell no. I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. Cause like the amount of reps I would have to do, like and to catch up, it's like, it wouldn't be worth it. So I said to myself, okay, so why did you say games when that first popped into your mind, right? And it was because I said to myself, it's because I like talking about games. I like being around games. Like I'm not just the type of person that talks about releases. Like I go on forums and I talk about sales data. I talk about the competitive side. I talk about the creators. I talk about the industry. I talk about the studios. Like I knew which personnel were leaving which studios to found new studios and what to expect from their games. I was reading financial reports from Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo to see like what was gonna come in. Like, you know, this was the time when the PlayStation 4 just came out, and like you know, I was trying to figure out like how the gen was gonna come up, like what Microsoft's strategy with Kinect was gonna look like, and if it was a viable one. Like there's I like all this stuff around the gaming industry, and that's when I was like, I don't want to be a pro gamer. I want to work in gaming. Right? I want to work in gaming. So what I ended up doing was I went on PlayStation's website and I said to myself, like, all right, before I start looking for any jobs, what do I know that I'm good at? Right. And I realized I was strong at communication. I was strong at telling stories, strong at talking. So I was like, I'm going to go on their website right now. I'm going to look through every job that they have on their careers page. And I'm going to write down the ones that will not penalize me for talking because I talk a lot. Right.
Okay.
And then I came across a posting for a senior technical recruiter. And when I read through it, I was like, this is like the perfect job for me. The only thing I'm missing is like the 5+ years of technical recruiting experience. And I was like, let me walk. Not too much, but I was like, let me walk backwards and let me ask myself, how the hell can I get 5 years of technical recruiting experience so that when I hit that 5 years, I can look at PlayStation and be like, oh, I can work for you guys in this capacity, right? And that was when I decided to become a tech recruiter.
Okay, so the way you're saying this time when finished university, if I don't want to misquote Steve Jobs lines, like when you look backwards, that's when the dots make sense. So the way you see it now, it made sense what you were doing. Like, okay, I'm going to start at acting, and then I'm going to radio, and then, oh, this job sucks. Then I'm going to PlayStation, try PlayStation. Do you see like, oh, that should be the path? It makes total sense for you?
Yeah, kind of. Like for me, it was just like, again, I realized now because I know myself better that for me it was all about storytelling was what I was drawing, communication. So like I was looking because the way that I perceived the recruiter job too was just like because I always equated storytelling to sales in the professional sense, right? I was like, when it comes to like workplaces, the storytellers are the salespeople, the people that are telling stories of how their product or service is going to bring value to the customer and why customers should invest in it. And like, whenever I after school, I tried getting a job in radio and I couldn't get a job in radio. So I ended up just doing sales, and I was like, I'm just going to do sales jobs. I was like, I'm gonna do sales jobs the same way actors wait tables in Hollywood until they get their big break. I'm gonna just do that, right?
Okay.
And whenever every sales job that I did, I was always a top performer, and people would ask me like, what is your secret? And my secret was I would just tell stories. Like if a customer is asking me like, hey, why would I want this product? I will tell them a story where they're their main character and how the product or the service would benefit them, right? When I worked at Enterprise, when I worked at Enterprise selling rental cars or doing the rental car thing, you know how they always talk about the extra insurance, right? I used to have the highest ranking in the whole country for selling the extra insurance. And when they asked me like, yo, what are you doing? I'd be like, every time they tell me no, I would just tell them a story. And like, they'd be like, oh, I'd be like, hey, do you want to take the extra insurance? And they're like, no, I don't have that. I have my own insurance. And I'd be like, yeah, well, let me tell you something. So here's what would happen. Picture this. You're on your way to your vacation spot. You're driving. Everything is cool. And then as you're exiting Brampton, someone rear ends you. And you know it's Brampton. You know the chance of someone rear ending you are sky high. And then as you process the claim through your insurance then tells you, hey, two things. Either one, because of some doohickey reasoning, you're also at fault. So we're going to have to ding you for that. Or two, because you made a claim on a vehicle that wasn't yours, you are now deemed more at risk. So when it comes to renewal, your insurance premiums are going to go up, right? Now, imagine if you took this rental insurance and that happens. You don't even have to call your insurance company. You just call us. We switch you on a new car and you continue your family vacation, creating all the memories that you want with your kids and your wife.
That's the dream.
You still want to take that's the dream, right? So like that's how I always told stories. Right? I used to sell gym memberships. I'd be like, yo, you told me that you want to like spend time and like lift your kids up. You know, imagine the memories that your kids are going to be able to tell you about how they can still think about the times when their dad picked them up and threw them into the sky. You're not going to do that if you have a bad back, right? You're not going to do that if you have a bad back. So like, join this gym, take this gym membership, take this personal training, hit your dreams, and create those memories with your kids. And you see what I'm saying? So like,
my God. Man.
Hey, bro, stories are amazing, bro. So like to me, like recruiting was always, it was sell this company to people that makes them want to work here, right?
Okay.
That's how I view recruiting. So it was just a storytelling vehicle for me. And that's kind of how I got into it. And that's how I kind of found my niche. And that made me realize something. And that was before I even like started finding like my purpose in it and like how I could really start changing stories, not for myself, but for other people.
Okay. So I was taking a look at your profile and also back of your stories. And one thing very common also related to me is that if you are in a position, if you don't like, you jump to the next one. You jump to the next one. And taking your story as a kid, this is something that you kept as you were growing. And what I noticed is that I know a lot of professionals that they stay in the same company like for ages, just like they married to the company. But I want to know from your perspective, what is the thing that you say, this is enough, or with this company, I'm not staying one more day, I'm not signing a contract with this company. What are the things that make you, no, I'm done, I'm going to another one?
I've always operated on the fact that I only stay at companies for as long as I can feel like they are in service to me. Like company, when I say in service to me, I mean like that there's some benefit, that
Yeah.
there's a continuous benefit here that I can't find anywhere else, or that it's not worth looking anywhere else for, right? A lot of times that was pay, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if like, to me, my relationship would deteriorate with my managers the second I felt underpaid, right? The second I felt
Yeah.
underpaid, my relationship would deteriorate, and either because I see what the opportunity is, it became a toxic environment, or I myself made it toxic because I was just miserable and I couldn't focus on the fact that
Mm.
I couldn't focus on anything else other than I was underpaid. And I would start doing this thing where if it came to money, I would always sit down and start calculating how much revenue I was generating companies. And remember, like, I worked sales jobs, so like
Yeah.
all I had to do was just like add up the stats that I had and like look at the commission that they were giving me plus a salary, and the average was always like 5x what they're giving me. So me asking for like an extra 10K and I'm bringing you 5x, and you're saying no, or you're making excuses, you're not taking me seriously. You don't value
Okay.
me, right? The other aspect is that the culture was just toxic, right? I worked at a couple of places that have asked me to either tone down my blackness or like, not, what I'm saying, like just not being me. And
Yeah.
like from when those two instances pop off, I just jump because the job no longer serves me. And like I'm the type of person where like I'm a person of extremes, you know what I'm saying? Like if I'm in, I'm in. Like that's why a lot of times, like for those sales jobs, I was always like one of the top performers, because like when I'm in, I'm obsessed with it, right?
Okay.
I'll know everything about the company, about the service, about the product, every single which way that it can value people, so I can lean onto that in my discussion. And when I'm
Mm.
out, I'm out. Like I don't even do the hosting thing. Like it just it just drops, right? Like my performance just drops. Like I might not even like, might as well not even be at the office with the way of how disconnected I am from like what's going on, because I'm not feeling the environment anymore, right? So
Okay.
that's always what's kind of pulled me in that direction.
Okay. Okay. Because it looks like people have some tolerance to toxic environments, to be in companies where they know they are being underpaid, but still continue in those workplace. And yeah, I just want to know from you what is your position in that frame. So you got into tech recruiting based on a great story, trying to help a friend, and you gained the title as the job father.
That's right. Yeah.
So you are on a mission to help 500 Black people to get job in tech. You are, I believe, now on 400 something.
404.
404. Yes, I've been looking at on LinkedIn. Uh, how has been this experience so far? What you can share with me now?
Um, it's been an amazing experience. It's been a challenging one. It's been an exhausting one. It's been one that's burnt me out many times, but like I can't get over the satisfaction of hearing somebody that looks like me having a success story and like just being
Mm.
able to change lives and careers. I got into it because when I started recruiting, I just noticed that 6 months into my job, the only Black person that got a job at the company I was working at, or through the company I was working at, was me. Right, that was the only Black hire that I saw, just me, which I thought was interesting. It
Okay.
was kind of weird because like I would see like literal joy on people's faces when they sign new offers. And I just I just wanted people that look like me to experience that same kind of joy. And
Okay.
I knew it wasn't for like a lack of skill or qualifications. It was just of a lack of opportunity because like for some reason people just didn't pay attention to us. So I started prioritizing Black faces and Black people in these spaces. And when I saw the first like success story and like this person like said to me that I changed their lives, it was a feeling that I felt very fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? Like that as you can tell just from my history, like I said, I always jumped around, and that's partly because like I either felt underpaid or I felt underappreciated. But a big part of that was just feeling unfulfilled. Like I felt like I had so much to contribute to this world. I just didn't know the proper vehicle to channel that through. And
Okay.
like I felt unfulfilled in just a lot of my jobs, which made it so easy for me to like just to walk away and leave them. But helping that first Black person that I helped get a job, and it was for a IT help desk role.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, I connected with them like 2 months ago, and he's now like the senior director of IT at that company, which was an
Well,
amazing feeling. When I first helped him get that job, it was just like, yo, you changed my life, and like I got hope now, right? Like I don't have to stress or anything. Like I got hope. Like I'm at a really good position here, and that's because of you. So thank you. And it was a very great feeling. I was addicted to the feeling, but like I was able to just go home, and like I had one of the best sleeps of my whole life. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
Like
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I went home and I was able to rest. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I was able to just,
I understand
you know what I'm
that.
saying? Like I was able to just like put my head on the pillow and just knock out. And I woke up just fully energized. And I realized
Yeah,
that like I felt fulfilled. Like that literally lifted up my spirits in a way I never knew that I needed, or I never knew that I could actually experience. And
yeah.
um, I just became more obsessed with him. And everything that I've done since that moment was to replicate that feeling. And like I can tell you that the first hire, it feels the same as the 404th hire. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I get that like shot in my arm. I get that rest whenever I have one of those success stories. And like I really feel like I'm in my purpose. And my purpose isn't to get Black people tech jobs, but it's to advocate for people that look like me. It's to like try to balance the scales of things being unfair. And like this is just the vehicle that I'm able to contribute in changing the story of not only how we as a community are perceived, but just
Yeah.
like how people perceive the opportunities that they can have for themselves or the places that they can take themselves. And like the freedom of choice that we have to not be pigeonholed into the sectors or the vectors that we think that we belong in, right?
Yeah.
I think back to younger Jermaine, and it's like I fell in love with like the NBA and basketball, and it's no, like I said, I grew up in the Vince Carter era, but like it was in no part because like the only people around me at the time that seemed to have interesting careers all were athletes or musicians or someone working in the
Okay.
arts. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but like that's not for everybody. And like I was trying to pigeon myself in to that. Like I
Yeah.
didn't give up my NBA dreams until I was like damn near out of high school. You know what I'm saying? Like when my mom was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, you hit your growth spurt. You went from 5'6" to 5'9". That's it, bro. Like that's it. Like you're not. She's like, you're not the most coordinated, right? You're not the fastest. You can't jump the highest. Like, be
That's
real.
not.
Like, you try
That's
to.
definitely not for
That's
you. What else do you want?
she's like, that's not you. I remember my mom talked to like because when I never made a basketball team either, right? And my mom was like, you've never even made a basketball team like in any of your schools. Like, what are you doing? And
Uh,
I remember she was like, I know you don't know this, but I talked to one of your teachers because I wanted to see if I could get you on the team. And you know what your teacher said to me? He said you play with a lot of heart. And I was like, well, why is that a bad thing? He's like, no, Jermaine, he didn't say you play well. He said you play with a lot of hearts. He means you try. And that's the best thing you can do.
okay, so
So she's
sports
like,
wasn't a thing for you.
sports was not a thing for me, right? But like again, the thing is I just didn't see anything else around me, right? I like
Any
all the stuff that the
reference?
people yeah, all the stuff that the people were doing around me just did not interest me. And
Yeah.
like, I just didn't see any other way. So like, I feel like, again, my contributions is not like tech is right now is getting people into tech to me is just the vehicle, but like my whole thing is again around narratives and storytelling, things that of how people perceive their realities. And like, I love whenever I help a Black person get a new job in tech, that is another person that is able to be in an environment or an industry that a lot of people in our community might not be
Yeah.
aware of or exposed to. And like now, if like a kid like me, right, has somebody in their family that's doing something cool like that, they're not going to feel like they're being forced into like limited opportunities because that's all that they see. Now that there's this new stream that they could check out that's
Yeah.
totally flexible, that has so many different options, and like that's the whole point of it, right? That's where I get the satisfaction out of it.
Okay, so when people got to you, how bad they are? So I believe, like, I don't know, unemployed, already employed. In which situation
Everyone's
you take them to the next level?
all of them. I've helped out people that were unemployed. I've helped out people that um, have been employed but have never thought of themselves in a tech role. I've helped people out that were at tech jobs that they knew what job they wanted to do, but the companies were like limiting in their terms of their opportunities, and like they just didn't know what was out there. Right. I'm
Okay,
just like I just think of myself as just a gateway to just point people in the right direction on how to
okay,
get that next step or how to start that journey.
okay. I kind of also coach some people. They want
Mhm.
to improve their career in some way, and I noticed that they all kind of have the same problems. Some of them are they don't know much about their job. They don't know their role in the company. They don't know their role in the society. They don't know about the company. They just stuck there, but they know they want something different. What are the things, three things that you could highlight that you identify, like people have this problem or make this mistake or have this wrong assumption?
I always start off by saying like, think about what skills you have. So think about like what you're good at. Think
Yeah.
about think about what you're good at. Think about what you like, and then think about what you've had success with, right?
Okay.
Uh, because sometimes all those things are the same thing, and sometimes they're completely different. And using that as a metric to kind of figure out like what to kind of guide you on like what next steps on your journey you should think of it. Like, for me, when I think about what I was good at communicating and talking.
Mm-hmm.
What I like doing, gaming, right?
Yeah.
Gaming or basketball, um, and what I've had success with, right? Selling things to people,
Yeah.
getting awards for sales, things of that nature. So it was a matter of like looking at opportunities that align with those three things and seeing where the intersections were, right? I looked at what I liked, which was PlayStation. I looked
Yeah.
at what I was good at, which was talking, which is me looking
Yeah.
at PlayStation, looking for jobs where I was talking, and then I looked at what I've had success with, and
Yeah.
I had to do a little bit of a breakdown with that, which was like again, I've had success in anything related to sales, so like anything that's sales related or sales adjacent, right?
Yeah.
Is what I should be looking at, and that's how I found the recruiter job because again, I looked at it as selling people on the narrative on why they should be at this company. And you see how all three of those kind of blend in well together to kind of make it seem like a really good fit. So that's why I tell
Okay.
people like, yeah, I'm saying like separate those three things and then find opportunities or find roles or avenues for each of those three things and see which roles overlap and intersect across the three pillars right there. And that's how you get started.
Okay. Okay. So about the recruiting process, based on your story, you had 18-page resume, right?
Nasty work.
Okay. So one page is not so good. 18 shouldn't be. also.
Yeah. So like it depends, right? It all depends. Like that person that gave me that 18-page resume with the syllabus and the
Yeah.
contents of the table of contents, it's coming from academia. So in an academia setting, that might be a bit more appropriate, right? And I don't even think that's
Okay.
original. I think that's just straight up like a CV. Actually, it's a book when you think about it.
18
Um,
page. Yes.
yeah. I always say that, I always try to keep my resumes between 1 to 3 pages, but I recognize that the first page is the page that's most important, just based on how recruiters read resumes and
Yeah.
how we retain information when we're reading resumes or reading things very quickly. So like, reason why I say 1 to 3 pages is that you don't want to overwhelm anybody, but like ideally the first page is the most important. So if you can accurately and adequately like explain your experience and your value within that first
Yeah.
page, you don't need to go beyond that first page, right? Now,
Okay.
if you have a certain length of experience, right, or like the information is a bit more than 1 page, and you can go to 2 pages, and like 3 should be your absolute max. I don't even like going to 3, but sometimes if I'm working with somebody that has,
Yeah.
a lot of experiences, or like, a lot of experiences that are relevant, because I'm quick to cut out irrelevant experiences, especially because I try to like stick within that 2 page border. It's very
Okay.
rarely that I go to 3, but I will go to 3 if I have to. But like, yeah, you can fit unless you're like really senior, have like a really diverse career that has brought you to a lot of different relevant spots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you should be able to fit your resume within 1 to 2 pages,
1 to 2 pages.
with realizing that the first page is the most
Is
important
the
page.
most important one. So how long does it take for you or a tech recruiter to analyze a resume? Like,
A recruiter, a resume that gets advanced to an interview stage gets analyzed no less than twice.
yeah.
A lot of people are like, there's this idea that recruiters spend 5 to 7 seconds on a resume, which is
Yeah.
like a half truth. Um, I used to spend like,
How?
it's a half truth. It's a half truth. So like,
Okay.
if I have 100, if I have one job I'm recruiting for, and I have 100 applicants, right?
Yeah.
I am gonna go through. I'm gonna try and like, my magic number was 25. If I can get 25 good resumes that I want to like look at, what I would do is I would skim the resumes, and then I would do what's called I would shortlist them, which I would put them in a short, like a
Mm.
shorter list from that initial list. And if they pass that initial 5 to 10 second scan, they went to my short list. And on my short list, I would revisit them, and I would take my time and I'd read the resumes properly and thoroughly. And then from there, shorten the amount of resumes in the short list to be
Yeah.
people that I invited for interviews. So like, that's what I mean by like, recruiters no less than twice look at your resume, because like five um 5 to 7 seconds isn't a lot of time, but that's just used to call from the
Mm.
bigger number. You know what I'm saying? And you bring people over to your short list, you look over your short list, and then you invite people to interviews.
So what are you looking in this first skimming or this first process?
I'm looking
Uh,
for keywords, and I'm looking for context into which those keywords are used in the experience. So if I'm looking for like a Python developer, right?
yeah.
Like one of the last roles I was recruiting for at my full-time job was a data engineer, right?
Okay.
And this was to build up a data platform and a fraud platform. So I was
Mm.
looking for people that were not only good with like Python and AWS, but they were also good with Apache Airflow, so streaming technology, or Kafka, right?
Yeah.
And not only using the streaming technology, but the context in which they use it. Like, were they building up platforms or pipelines to handle massive amounts of data in real time, right?
Okay.
So I'd be skimming for those keywords, and then when I found the keywords, I'd be looking in context of how they use those key skills, right? Leverage several programming languages like Python to build up X company's data platform. Boom, that's exactly what I'm looking for. What other
Okay.
examples of that do you have? Okay, boom, this is good. I'm gonna move you to my short list because I've seen a couple of things on the first page, and I'll dive into the experience where I'm looking deep, I'm reading slower, but I'm also looking at the company, the context, the product that you worked on, You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? How big that company was. I'm looking at your LinkedIn to see if looking at your LinkedIn or your GitHub to see if you've done any additional projects, right? Just
Okay.
how well versed are you in this space, like what your seniority is. And then if you have my curiosity enough where I'm like, either I think there's enough here or like there isn't enough here for me to make a judgment call. All I know is that this person might have the embers of what I'm looking for. I'm gonna schedule an interview with you.
Okay. So like having on the first page, I'm single, I'm married, I have 2 daughters, one is Catherine, I live with my
I don't.
mother.
I'm I'm a recruiter and I match people to jobs, but I am not a matchmaker. I do not help you find your spouse. I have had people ask me like, hey, you found me a job, can you find me a spouse? And I always gotta go, no, that's not what I do.
It's nothing related.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some.
I can't just plug in. No, like I can't do that. I
Yeah,
can't find your
it's
wife.
different things. I believe that as a tech recruiter, there are some tech skills that you have to develop different than other types of recruiters.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a tech recruiter, there is. So like so the thing about being a recruiter, it all comes like the actual skills or the actual basis of what it means to be a recruiter is pretty similar. Like you just need to know how to interview. You need to understand what you're like the company or the culture or the service or the product that you're building towards, and you need to understand where this hire fits in the grand scheme of things. And you need to also be able to sell the job to people that you really, really want to hire, right? That's universal. Like that comes like that's the same thing for healthcare recruiters, finance recruiters. It's the same thing, right?
Okay.
The difference is just knowing what your subject matter expertise is, right? Like I can talk to software engineers to a certain point where I am explaining to them like what they're actually going to be building towards and what the value of that product or service is going to be and the position of the company relative to their competition or their peers, and even going a bit further to maybe do like a future projection on like what the next steps in the initial process, not the initial interview process, but the next step in the future process, the future roadmap is going to look like, and why they should be excited for what's to come next, or what new technologies we may be able to have exposure with it. But like you need to be able to basically talk shop with your candidates. If you can't do that, you're going to be limited as a recruiter. So like that is what a tech recruiter knows differently, or that's how they prepare differently. They're just more aware of what's going on in their industry. Now, tech being the industry that it is, it's filled with innovations every single day, right? New stacks, new technologies. We got AI coming in right now. And like a lot of people think AI is just Chat GPT, but like, you know, there's Chat GPT, Gemini, there's Perplexity, there's everything, Cloud, Copilot, like the list goes on, right? Like how like Devin's coming out, you know what I'm saying? Like you need to be able to talk shop with these people on these type of things, right? Just as like I wouldn't be able to like step into like a recruitment for nurses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could in the sense that like I'm a good conversationalist and like, you know, I can talk to them and keep them engaged, but like
make sense of some things.
But as soon as they start talking about like stethoscopes and like catheters, and they lost me. Like I don't know that.
Yeah.
So it's very situational is what I would say.
Okay. So you mentioned about AI. How do you see it disrupting not only tech recruiters, but also tech candidates? What do you see already happening from your perspective?
I think AI is just a new way of technology, and like there's always the way whenever disruptive technology comes, people always have the fear of being replaced. And I think what AI is doing right now is totally disrupting how we approach things. And there are a lot of people that are at risk, quote unquote, for being replaced, but those are the people that aren't able to apply critical thinking to their tasks or what they're able to do. I've been telling people that the best way to like fight AI is to embrace it and know how to use it to your benefit in your job and how to do your job better, right? AI should be a tool where, if you are like your workload should be able to do 100x. Like I was talking to somebody earlier today about Perplexity, right?
Yeah.
Perplexity AI, which is basically a Google search, is like a search engine powered by AI. You can use Claude, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Copilot,
Yeah.
and it's powered by AI to basically do what Google does, but be more specific, right?
Mm.
And it is a tool that a lot of researchers are using right now because it also highlights its sources and where it's pulling its information from, right?
Okay.
So I was talking to somebody and they're like, how could a researcher use AI? And I'm like, if that researcher's organization, the expectation is that they do 10 qualitative reports per quarter, right?
Yeah.
A researcher that's leveraging Perplexity or a similar AI tool should be able to do 100 qualitative reports per quarter, right? And that's how you use AI to your benefit. AI is always going to require human input, one way or the other, right? Like even though like it's getting more predictive and like we're talking about like AGI and everything, it's still going to
Yes.
require critical application and strategic application, because people are always going to want to have that human input, right? So
Okay.
I don't think there will ever be a widespread replacement. You just need to know how to work it into your skill set. And if you don't have the skill set where it's complementary, you need to reskill yourself to do so.
Okay. So you believe also that we're going to see a reduction on the number of people required to do a task? That's
Somewhat, but that doesn't like that. Like it's the same way as like saddle makers were pissed off when the like combustion engine was first introduced, right?
yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
So
Just
we
like
have this evolution cycle happening all the time.
happens to everything. Like you look at the way journalism has kind of been disrupted time and time again. Journalism was disrupted significantly when the internet first took off in the 2000s, right? When it became
Yeah.
mainstream and everybody had a computer. You saw journalism get disrupted in the sense that like everyone was going on the like needed to make like a e equivalent to whatever it is that their offering was, right? And then things started to settle when we had like paid tiers, or like you had like very specialization journalism. And then journalism had another disruption when social media sites said like video was the best form of content for people
Yeah.
to absorb things. And now it's going through another disruption with AI right now. But like the thing is that like I read copy written by AI and I read copy written by journalists, and the journalists win 10 times out of 10, right? Because they're able to create like actual authentic pieces that
Mm-hmm.
are interesting, right? AI makes things regurgitate things like a report. Even if you tell AI to write it like a journalist of some kind, right? It still has
Yeah.
that lack of emotional depth, right? And
Yeah.
maybe that gets adjusted as we get better, but like I would say a journalist, a hard-hitting journalist leveraging AI is
Mm-hmm.
always going to come up with output better than just the AI by itself or somebody mediocre using the AI. At the end of the day, it's a tool, right? It's supposed to enhance what's already there. And if
Okay.
you're finding that it's not enhancing you, it's replacing you, you need to up your skill set.
Okay. So I truly believe that some of the tools that are coming out, they're going to replace many people. I've seen this IBM. They just spoke about this recently. I don't know if you read about it. They're going to reduce a lot of their stuff thanks to AI. And I also believe that there are a lot of tasks that are being done by humans that can also be reduced by some of these AI tools. But yeah, let's see. Let's see.
I mean, most definitely, but like that's nothing new. Like you look at
Yeah.
the Industrial Revolution, you look at the advent of like production lines, like all the time, things put people out of work, but creates new jobs as a
Yeah.
result.
Yeah.
And even then, in some aspect, the automation or like the replacement doesn't work. Like look at if you think back to like 20 years ago when self checkout terminals became a thing, right? Everyone was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna replace cashiers," and now Walmart's not even doing self-checkout anymore. Walmart's trying to be like, if you want to use self-checkout, you got to have a membership. You got to pay extra to do self-checkout because we're just losing so much money at self-checkout, right?
Okay.
Like we back to square one. Like the thing about being human, right? And it's the most beautiful thing, I think. Thing about being human is the creativity, the adaptability, and the unpredictability of being human, right?
Okay.
That's just it. There is no mind as creative as the criminal mind, and I don't care what anybody says, right?
Yeah.
No one that has to deal with security or enforcement or policing is going to allow robots or AI to take over that aspect, because there will be a criminal that will find some way to circumvent it. You know what I'm saying? Circumvent it, get around it, get through it, get behind it, trick it. Like even in the most, like, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I'll never forget. I was reading this book series called The Expanse, and they were talking about immigration, planet-side immigration, and how like even though they have AI and robots, they still require one human to like look and see and check the work, because humans know how devious humans are, right? all it takes is someone be like, yo, I know what the limit is, I know how to finagle that, I know how to get through that. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like as soon as we figure out the limits of something, we're creating ways to get around the limits. You know what I'm saying? Outsmarting, right?
Okay, but you see at this moment, you see that companies are already recruiting a lot of people with some kind of exposure to these AI tools, or is?
Yeah, they are, but like we're in this gray space, similar to like how the early 2010s, it was easy for a lot of people to get jobs just by going to like a certification course and getting a cert. It's because like no there weren't any standards put into place yet, because there was just so few exposure to it right now. So that's why I'm like, you need to start right now experimenting, incorporating, building projects off of these tools, because that is a really good way for you to get a job. If you start putting on your resume all the different ways that you use AI to enhance your work productivity. Like if you're an operations manager right now, you know what I'm saying, you shouldn't be worried about AI replacing you. You should be figuring out what AI tools are best for what solutions. And like on your resume, you should be bragging about how much money you saved the company because you use XYZ tool to get 1, 2, 3 result, right? That is like, that shit, like we need to start, like the way that the market is going, it's going to be pushing for more critical thinkers, more strategic thinkers, and people that are going to be able to leverage these tools to get the results that they want.
Okay, so people should be already having some type of exposure to these AI tools. Okay.
Most definitely. Use ChatGPT, use Copilot, use Perplexity, use Claude. Like you get your hands on as many stuff as possible.
Just try it, just for fun.
Just try it. It. It was just like back in the 2000s, where like, I don't know about you, but like one of the most frustrating things growing up, which I always found hilarious, was like my parents asking me for help with like the modem, right? They'd be like, the internet's not working, and I'd be like, yo, just play around with it, right? And they wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it, and then you just come in, you just plug it in, plug it out, and they look at you like you're freaking Einstein, right? And you know,
it's the genius boy.
It's the genius boy. Are you gifted? And it's like, nah, bro. It's just, you know, I just play around with it. Like, but as an adult, I get it. It's like, when you got bills, you got parenting, you know, you get the car breaking down and shit, like, you know, housing, rent. Like, you're not trying to figure out this new technology that's taking the world by storm. Oh my God. You know how many CDs I had to burn for my dad?
Just do it. MP3
with my mom, and I'm like, yo, it is so easy to use LimeWire. Like, it's right there. You just type in. You want to listen to Whitney Houston? You just type in Whitney Houston. It's there. Like, bro.
No way. I remember when I was back in Angola. You know, typewriters, the manual one. So back on 90s, I remember when computer got to Angola. And people were like, computer, you know, this is just a game. And people were paying too much attention to it until companies start to realize that we actually need computers. And then they realized, oh, now I can't use computer, and the companies were start to replace the typewriters. And I just saw a lot of people that lost their jobs because they couldn't keep the pace with the new things that were coming. Even to this day, last year, I believe that was on last year, my mother was able to make phone calls using WhatsApp because she couldn't. And for me, I'm a nerd, so I understand that. I forgive her for all of these mistakes. Yeah, but some people, they take some time to keep the pace on these technologies. Okay.
Yeah. And I say I don't like I'm more understanding now as an older person because like
Yeah.
you asked me how my week was, and bro, I'm exhausted. Like I'm exhausted, man. Like if someone
Yeah.
would tell me like if I wasn't already incorporating the AI stuff and if someone just dumped it on my plate, like, hey yo, try to learn this, I'd be
Yeah.
like, yo, screw you. Like I'm trying to like relax right now. Leave me alone. You do it. Right. So I get it. But like again, that's the whole thing. That's what it means about being human. It's about adapting and like looking at like I started like, I started looking at discourse and disruption less as a threat and more of like an opportunity, right? Because like
Okay.
anytime disruption comes, it's an opportunity to change the status quo,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think if more people realize that, I think society would actually definitely be in a better place. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if more of us, anytime something disruptive happened, like if you even think about like the 2008 recession and a lot of people like lost a lot of stuff, a lot of people like a lot of fortunes were built. Like
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, Facebook and Twitter all launched, like both launched in 2007, and then by 2008 2009 they were picking up steam and momentum because like they saw an opportunity both in terms of capturing people's attention and having them prioritize good times because of what was going on outside, but also the government trying to make things rebound with like zero interest rate type of things, like for the ZRIP that we just went through. They realized that was an opportunity for them to build their infrastructure off of, and here they are today, right?
Yeah.
So whenever things are being disrupted, you can't cower in fear. You can't be nervous. You can't you can't just take it on the chin. You got to look at it as an opportunity to try and get your hands on stuff and change the status quo. If not for society, then just for yourself as a whole. Like change how you're doing things.
Okay. Talking about disruption, Jupiter is how you call it? Your company is Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter HR.
So how long would it take for someone to come up to you, hi Jermaine, I want to work at this tech company? How long normally does it take a process? The shortest one to the longest one you had so far?
The shortest one was 2 weeks. The longest one was 18 months.
18 months. So
18
something
months.
Around those lines.
I would say everyone is different. There is no like,
different. Okay.
Everyone is different because it comes down to what your background is, what your skill set is, what kind of opportunities you're trying to get, and what the timing of the market is. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, that there's so many different factors that come into play, and like again, timing of the market and just timing of the opportunities. Because like, I have companies in my network that are hiring right now. Like I just had this happen. Somebody sent me their resume for a project manager position that they saw. And when I reached out to the company, they're like, yeah, we would love to interview them, but we just put an offer out to somebody. You know what I'm saying? So like it's timing. It's being strategic, it's developing your skill set, and then just being on the prowl for the right opportunity to come your way to jump on it.
Okay. Now we got close to the end, and I just want to say some questions from my audience because some of them, they had some doubts, and there are only 2 questions that I could capture. So let me get now. So one of them, the guy says, okay, what are the IT skills that from your perspective, companies are looking now in 2024? Some of the IT skills, what is it? ChatGPT expert?
I mean, like it depends on what you do, but I would say if you're a software developer, Python's always a good one to have.
Okay.
Anything around AWS or anything around AWS, anything around React, anything around Azure is good. ChatGPT is good as well, or like again, any of like the AI assistant programs would be good. Yeah, that's a bit very broad, but I would say it all comes down on what you really want and like what you're trying to do. But like, yeah, I would say you can't go wrong by just learning how like large language models are being used or one of the AI tooling in like your current skills in like your current like work vertical and incorporating that.
So we just say cybersecurity is still something on demand.
Cybersecurity is always going to be in demand because cybersecurity is protecting data. Cybersecurity itself is its own industry. It's not just a particular skill set. You know what I'm saying? Like within cybersecurity, you have project managers, you have cybersecurity analysts, you have incident responder. You know what I'm saying? Like there are all these different routes in cybersecurity itself. If you want to be an engineer and you want to work in cybersecurity, be a security engineer, right? But that's not like you might have that kind of mindset or mentality, but like that's not just a skill set. That's an actual like industry in itself. That's like saying like you should have tech. If you want a tech job, you should just have tech on your resume. Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so you want to be specific. Okay, so one more is what you would recommend for a network admin or sysadmin who has project management experience and some experience managing people and want to work as an IT director or any type of IT management. So it's like he's in a professional engineer level and wants to go to the higher as a director.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing I would do would be look internally at the company that I'm working at for any projects that are on the horizon or any projects that have actually died and see if I can take initiative on being the leader of those projects, right? Maybe getting authorization for like a small team to dive in and try to like get that initiative off the ground or revive it. Outside of that, I would be looking for opportunities to mentor people, run like my own projects or boot camps of some sort, or maybe even start a non-for-profit where I can leverage those skills for the good of humanity or for the good of services. Like if you're a network engineer, for example, you can launch a non-for-profit, get a couple of people to work under you, and then hit up businesses to help reinforce their network or increase their security protocols and just like make them safer environments when it comes to either handling customer data or just protecting themselves, right? When it comes to like their own environments.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so 2 more questions and I'm going to let you go. So do you still playing video games?
I got my PlayStation controller right here.
So close.
I mean, it's been a crazy week, so I haven't been able to turn on my PlayStation. But like it's right here. Like I'm like as soon as I get time, I'm ready to go. So, but like I keep it close. I keep it close.
Okay, the last one. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken. Which one would you pick?
Tekken.
Which fighter?
Tekken is Kazuya Mishima. Tekken is, listen, there's this joke that all black people are good at Tekken, and Tekken is like one of the only fighting games I've been able just to pick up and be good at. So like, I've been playing Tekken since Tekken 3. Kazuya wasn't in Tekken 3, but when he came back in Tekken 4, I was smoking everybody. So if you ever want the smoke, you want to see if you can like get your ego bruised, Tekken or Dragon Ball Z Fighters, that's where I'm at.
Man, I stopped way too long, but I was also Tekken, but it was the Taekwondo guy.
Oh, not Hwang, no, the Bruce Lee guy.
Not the Bruce Lee guy. There is the guy who fights as a Taekwondo. He used to wear white clothes.
Hwang? The Korean guy?
Warang. Yes,
Oh,
Warang. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, Warang and Yoshimitsu. Those were my
Yoshimitsu. So I
yeah.
used to play Yoshimitsu in Soul Calibur.
Yes. Okay. Man, this was a great time. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for spending a little of your precious time and sharing this info with my audience and also with me. And I hope that at least people now get some more information about what the Tech Recruiter do and also how they can prepare for the marketplace. Okay.
Yeah,
So
man. Thank you for having me. It's always much appreciated. And yeah, man, I appreciate the audience and anyone that listened. Thank you again.